Welcome back to the channel. I'm Rebecca, Crafting Journey. Welcome to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I recap live trials. Only not the trial that I'm going to recap is still in jury selection. So I'm bringing you part 2 of the story of the Colorado dentist. Yes, but first, what the hell is going on with the weather? Oh my God, 2 days of 80 degrees. I put away I either packed it for my vacation up in the mountains where it's still cold, supposed to be cold there, or I put it away. So I'm digging out socks this morning because it's 30 effing degrees. What's going on? Donald Trump gets arraigned. The weather's all over what is going on? Like tornadoes where there shouldn't be tornadoes. I know Donald Trump has nothing to do with the weather. But politics has now crossed over into the true crime realm. So I will be following the case of Donald Trump for the 31 or 32 felonies he was arraigned on yesterday in court, where they fingerprinted him. They did not take his mugshot. Oh man, I wanted a mugshot. Oh, I'd have diamond painted that damn thing. I'd have had it sent out to China, made into a diamond painting, and diamond painted it. Yeah, a mugshot. Yes. Anyway, okay. Enough about that. I'm looking for. I bet I just found it. Yeah, my remote control. Okay. I switched paintings, yes. I was doing the painting from Enabler's Outpost. A lot of gapping, and I wasn't getting any joy from it. And if I don't get joy from a project, I have to put it aside and get something else out. So, no joy there. No joy in Mudville, but I got out The Realm of the Cats. Now, I have been dying to dive into this one. This was The Realm of the Cats. I know you cannot see this, so I'll put something here so you can see what the heck it is. I actually have the matching dog painting to this. I've done the dog painting. It's a landscape. It was hanging here for a while, and then I replaced it with the dragon. One of my, yeah, it's on my bucket list, is to rearrange this room. I want to order, I am an affiliate with Art Dot. The link is down in the description, but I want to order, they have these huge portfolios, and I think a lot of these paintings might go into the portfolios, and I'll put some new ones up. Like that one will go into a portfolio. I'll probably leave that one out. I don't know. That one definitely, but a lot of the Alice stuff over here will go into the portfolio. First, I got to order it. Yeah. I have to wait to see how much money I've left after the ski trip. Everything is very tightly budgeted, let me tell you. This may be the last vacation I ever have, because I'm not going to be filing, getting huge tax returns anymore, because I am retired now. So anyway, this is a painting by Barrett Biggers, and I am actually starting at the bottom of the painting. Oh, I thought I was at the top. At the bottom of the painting. And I finished the first section, and so happy with this because no gapping. Yay. It's okay. I may go back to the other one. I've got one whole row done eventually. But right now, I needed some joy in my life. Well, first thing I want to do is bring you up to speed on what's going on in the Vallow Daybell case. Still in jury selection. Day 2 completed. They got 30 jurors, a total of 30 jurors so far. They want to get to 42. So the jury selection will continue today. Once they get to 42, then what will happen? They'll enter the next phase where each side, prosecution and defense, has a certain number of challenges, and they will use their challenges. They'll bring up the first juror, use their challenges, and they'll they'll work on that 48 until they get down to 18. So that's 12 jurors, 6 alternates, because this trial may go anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. So I'll be on vacation next week. They'll probably start opening statements on Monday. When I get back to the hotel at night, I will listen to the opening statement. You're not going to miss anything. I'm not going to miss anything because it's my vacation, but I will bring it to you. I promise. Because this is, one of those trials. It's not being, it's nobody's videoing it because the court is not allowing it. They're not allowing recordings, not allowing videos. So it's okay that I'm not sitting there watching it all day because there's nothing to watch. So I will check in at night with those 2 reporters, see what we missed, and I will bring it to you. There might be like a 1-day delay. Probably will be a 1-day delay. And you might get to see some of my skiing because my goal today is to clean this off. Clean this whole thing over here off. And find my GoPro because it's over here somewhere. Yes, because I want to bring you some skiing footage. Okay, let's talk about the dentist. Now, I just have to say, one of the reasons it's taken me so long is because the arrest affidavit is 52 pages long. Yes. So here's where we left off yesterday. March 18th. So I'll backtrack. I'll recap just a little bit. March 6th, Angela Craig, Dr. Craig's wife, goes to the hospital, to the emergency room because she's feeling nauseous and dizzy. And, he gave her a protein shake that morning prior to her workout. And after the workout, she wasn't feeling too great. She goes to the ER. They treat her. They send her home. Still not feeling great the next day. So she goes to the urgent care center. They do the same thing. They treat her, send her home. They run a few tests. Nothing comes back, anything alarming. So they sent her back home. She goes through the 8th, not feeling well. On the 9th, she goes back to this hospital. They admit her where she spends the next week in that hospital where they're running tests and they're trying to checking her heart. They're checking her diabetes. They're checking everything and doing brain scans. They can't figure out what the heck is wrong with this woman. I know what's wrong with her. Do you? Yeah. So anyway, the very next day after she's discharged, March 15th, she suffers from a really severe headache. Her brother takes her to a different hospital and she gets there and has a massive seizure. She crashes. She goes for a period of time without oxygen. They have to intubate her. Put her on a respirator, on life support. Now she's in dire straits. So Dr. Craig calls his best friend and business partner, Ryan Redfern, and he tells them, listen, Angela's back in the hospital and she's in grave condition, which she really is. He's not exaggerating. And Dr. Redfern and his wife, also Dr. Redfern, they respond to the hospital. They take separate vehicles. They meet up there. They go in together. They're talking to James while they're talking to him. He gets a phone call from a doctor. So he excuses himself and walks away to take his phone call. When he does that, Ryan Redfern gets the attending nurse for Angela aside and he says, listen, I think what's going on here is that she has been poisoned by her husband with potassium cyanide. He says, I know from another employee of the dental practice that he placed an order for potassium cyanide. It was delivered to the office. We don't use that drug in the dental practice. I just need you to know this information. Since the nurse is a mandatory reporter, and I want to just mention here, so is he, Ryan Redford. Why didn't he notify the police? No, he tells the nurse. I think because maybe he thought it might alter her treatment plan, but by now she's beyond help. So the nurse calls the police and investigation starts on the very next day, March 16th. So Dr. Craig figures out that his friend Ryan Redford has run his mouth and now he is not happy. Listen to what he has to say. Good morning, Ryan. Thank you for taking my patient load today. I want to make an urgent plea to you. If we were ever friends, please do this favor for me. Please don't talk to anyone about what we talked about last night, including any law enforcement officers. You are under no obligation to answer their questions unless you are served a subpoena, and you will do more damage than good to my family by continuing to insert yourself into this. Angela is gone, and I'm devastated. Now, Angela's not gone. She's still alive. Now, barely, but she's not gone yet. There is nothing that can bring her back, and I want desperately to tell you all of the details so that you can better understand what's gone on behind the scenes with her. There is so much that you don't know that I wish you did. If you knew everything, this would make so much sense to you, but there's no use in telling you right now. Now, this is all in a text message. He's not saying these things like in person. He texts all this to Ryan. Like that's a lot of typing. It is. Okay. You and I have a history of you and the other partners and Jackie all talking about me behind my back and deciding what you think is best. And then you're always the fall guy that has pull the trigger or tell me what you all decided about me. In fact, yesterday didn't even come to me. I had to seek you out. You have never given me the advantage of talking with me first. You just decide and then act and hope I'll pick up the pieces later. This is a pattern in our business dealings and now has become a factor in our personal dealings. Let me paint a picture for you of what this has done. Yesterday, I had to tell my kids their mom was not going to wake up and that they were to say their final goodbyes. That was at 6:45 p.m. The hospital said we could bring the kids up to say goodbye at that time. But because of the investigation you opened by your incomplete information, the hospital made those poor, grieving, hysterical kids wait until after 10 o'clock to see their mom. After an hour or so of saying goodbye to her, we went home just before midnight, only to have our house sealed against our entry by the police. Instead of getting to go home and find comfort, they were met with flashing lights and cold, unfeeling cops, and the kids, scared and confused, had to go to sleep at the home of a ward member. I think that's something to do with the church, the ward. So it's like a church member. Family is starting to come into town today, and I have to tell them they can't come to my house and try to explain why. I have to hire a homicide attorney to make sure I don't end up being painted in the light that you know some hungry DA is anxious to paint me in, because I am most likely going to be charged, even though that is absolutely not what happened. Ryan, I understand why you did what you did. I do. I get it. But if you had come to me personally, man to man, instead of talking to everyone else about what you thought you knew, I might have let you in on some details that would have made you less likely to cause this horrible storm. Man, Ryan, if you had only put me higher on your list of priorities, instead of putting everyone else's opinions and gossip ahead of me. For that, I am very, very mad at you. I have talked to you about this multiple times, but you don't seem to care. And now what you thought was responsible has become reckless and so destructive. And so I'm asking, if there was ever any love in your heart for me, please don't make this any worse by talking to any officers or anyone else about this unless you are legally forced to. And whoever else on the team you think is going to be questioned, I would ask that you privately ask them to honor this request too. Also, please do not respond to this text message until I text you again. What the hell? He's actually making his best friend feel bad for, he's the one that put his wife in the hospital, not his best friend. Oh my God. This is a sick individual. Yeah. Very sick. So the police, they start their investigation, and one of the first people they interview is Ryan Redfern. So on the morning of the 16th, Ryan meets with the police And he lets them know that he has been business partners with James Craig since August of 2022 when his business was struggling financially. He also said that, they had been friends for over 20 years. He also said that they had gone to dental school together. He describes James as a risk taker, and he found out that he had filed for bankruptcy in 2011 and was quickly approaching having to do that again. He stated that in January, now this is March, he said that in January, James had confided in him saying that his wife and he were having marital issues. So Ryan lets the police know that when he was the day before, when he's notified by James that Angela is back in the hospital and she's in great condition, while he's driving to the hospital, he gets a call from the dental practice office manager where she describes, that on March 6th, she saw him in the office late that night, back in the exam room 9, using the exam room computer, that this was very out of character for him, that he, after she left, he texts her and informs her that he's ordered a personal package. Could she look out for it? And when it comes, don't open it, put it in his office. So she tells him all this. She tells Ryan, and that it did come, and another office attendant opened the package. It contained potassium cyanide. Yeah. So now Ryan has this knowledge while he's on the way to the hospital. So that's probably why he didn't even have time to report it. So he gets to the hospital, he lets the nurse know. So now the police know. Now, Ryan actually had confronted James at the hospital, and he said that's one of the things that prompted that long text message. He told James, he said, James, why would you order potassium cyanide? And James said, I didn't order potassium cyanide. There was a ring in that package. I had ordered Angela a ring. And he's like, no, that, bullshit. I know that you ordered potassium cyanide. So finally, James recanted and claimed, now this is bizarre, very bizarre. He claimed that he ordered it for Angela. Angela wanted it so she could commit suicide. Now, he tells Ryan, I think she was just going to play a game of chicken with me. That is the most bizarre thing I have ever heard. So Ryan's response to him was, stop talking and get a lawyer. Good advice. Oh my God, this guy. Wow. Okay. So the next person the police interview is Michelle Redfern, the PhD in nursing. She describes, she says the whole situation with her husband, the phone call, the conversation with Ryan. She's there for all of it. Then she tells the police the history behind it, what happened on March 6th, 7th, 9th through the 14th, all of this mysterious illness that she's had for the last 2 to 3 weeks. She tells the police this. She also tells the police that she had been exchanging texts with James, where during her hospitalizations, Angela's hospitalizations, she had been asking about different text results. So she actually gives her phone to the police, and they are able to download all the texts. Now, I'm not gonna read all those texts, but she would ask, have they done this? Have they done that? And James would say yes, and he would tell her the test results, and this was the conversations that they would have. Now, there was a text message that did concern the police, and they outlined it in their 52-page affidavit, and it reads as follows. I will read that one for you. They're conversing back and forth about Angela and trying to figure out, hey, what's wrong with her? And here's what Dr. Craig says to Michelle Redfern. If it wasn't my wife, this would be kind of a fun puzzle to try to work out. A puzzle? So the next person to be interviewed by the police is the office manager, the one that saw James in the dental practice on March 6th late at night. She's the one that saw the potassium cyanide in the package that he ordered. So she describes all of those events to the police. Now here's how the office manager describes the potassium cyanide. She said the package was a foil square with no markings on it. It had a biohazard warning on it, but she couldn't remember what the biohazard warning was. She sealed up the box, because James had asked her not to open it, and the attendant that received the mail that day had already opened it. So she repackaged the item, sealed it up, gives it to James. Later that night, she tells the police that she saw him later that night carrying a cylindrical object wrapped in brown paper or construction paper with a metal lid. She stated in the 6 months that she had been at this dental practice, she had never seen anything like that object in the dental practice. She told the police that once she heard about Angela going back into the hospital on March 15th, that's when she decided she would take action, and she called Dr. Redfern and advised him while he was on his way to the hospital. Now, also on March 16th, Child Protective Services gets involved. Now, I'm not sure why, but they do. They send out an investigator to meet with James and the children. She meets with each one of them individually, starting with James. The investigator's name is Sidney. So here's what Sidney had to say. He claimed, when she interviewed James, he claimed that his wife Angela had been suicidal for some time, and in fact had tried to overdose on opioids multiple times and suffered from depression. Now, note to self, no one else witnessed this, describes her as being depressed. He is the only one. He's the only one that knew about these overdose attempts, never gets her any help. She doesn't get any help. Very strange. In fact, James tells this CPS worker, he says, if they test her urine, it's going to come back positive for something, because she probably was trying to kill herself again. So there's going to be something come back in her urine. So she interviews each one of these children. They have 6 kids. She interviews all 6 kids. Some of them are adults by now. And none of them report that mom was depressed. None of them knew about any overdoses. So that same day, March 16th, the detective assigned to this case, he goes and he gets 3 search warrants. One for the dental practice, one for the home of the Craigs, and one for the place where Craig was staying. He was staying with a close friend overnight on the 16th. The detective had contacted that friend, who confirmed, yes, he's going to be here overnight with the kids. So the first place they go is where he's staying with the kids. And they execute the search warrant. They said, we're here, we want Angela's phone, we want your phone, we want your laptop. So James turns over all of that, and he gives them the password for all of that. So the next place they go is the Craig home. They enter the home, they make sure there's no one there, first, and then they proceed to search the house. This affidavit for search and seizure also includes the seizure of any surveillance that was there. Now, this surveillance, they learned, was not going to a hard drive. It was probably going to a cloud drive, either on the laptop or some external source. So they had to, now they know they've got to figure out where was the footage, the surveillance footage, going to. So multiple items were seized from the Craig home, including multiple shaker bottles that you would use to make a protein shake. Those were confiscated. A computer tablet was confiscated. All kinds of protein powders that they had in the home, those were confiscated. A water bottle that was located near the exercise area was confiscated. And 2 plastic Ziploc bags that had a white powdery substance in them, they were confiscated. So then they head over to the dental practice. Now, the dental office was closed for business. So they go in, they execute the search warrant. They go down the hall, to the end of the hall, to the room 9, where the office manager had seen him that night on March 6th. They confiscate that office computer, and they seize the hard drive. So then they make their way to James's office, where they seize his work computer and his laptop. His personal laptop was there as well because he used it a lot for business. He had already told them he uses it for business as well as personal stuff. They also, this is strange, but they located a vacuum that had a white powdery substance in it. So they took samples of this white powdery substance from the vacuum and took that to be tested. They have access to Angela's cell phone. They have all of those text messages that I read to you yesterday, which the strange part about those text messages is that they were all really lovey-dovey. I love you. These guys have been married they got married in 1999. So 23, 24 years. I was married for 18 and we weren't like, oh, I love you. It was like, hey, how are you? How you doing? None of this stuff, but there's a reason for this. More to come. So the first thing they want to look at is the data from the computer in exam room 9 from the dental practice. And they find under James's name a new email that he had set up just recently on February 27th, 2023. So they're looking at everything that was done under that email, and they find searches that he made on this computer. The searches included: how many grams of arsenic will it take to kill a human? And is arsenic detectable at autopsy? What? Oh my God. Yeah. Not looking good for Dr. Craig. So they see that James, next thing he does is he searches chemical suppliers on Amazon and he orders arsenic. The arsenic was delivered to James's home on March 4th of 2023. Now, I don't know if you remember yesterday, but Angela was out of town. She doesn't get back to town. She was at her sister's. She doesn't get back to town until March 5th and doesn't get sick until March 6th. He only paid $13 for the arsenic. You can order arsenic on Amazon? What the hell? Then they look at his YouTube searches and find for the top 5 undetectable poisons that show no signs of foul play. Then he searched how to make poison, and last but not least, the top 10 deadliest plants. Parens, they can kill you, close parens. So when you look under the top 5 undetectable poisons, there was polonium, which is, there was an ex-Russian spy that was killed with polonium. I remember that. They put it in his teacup. Mercury, cyanide, botulinum toxin. Then he looks up cyanide symptoms, and those symptoms include nausea, vomiting, headaches, low blood pressure, seizures, cardiac arrest, difficulty breathing, and weakness. All things his wife suffered with for 2 weeks. So the video that comes up on YouTube says that cyanide is very difficult to detect, and by the time doctors figure it out, it's usually too late. Exactly what happened to Angela. Then they find the purchase of the potassium cyanide. So in order for James Craig to get this potassium cyanide, he was contacted by a rep, and she says to him, you need to fill out a personal usage form. So she sends him the form. He fills it out. He tells her he needs this. He's a doctor, and he needs the potassium cyanide and I've got to read this because it's really technical. He stated he was a surgeon performing a craniofacial reconstruction. He said he's using this chemical to check and see if it will help with the layering of alternative metals. He stated if successful, this will be published as a paper in the National Institutes of Health. And then he gives his license number. So she's thinking, this rep thinking, this is legit. So she sends out the potassium cyanide. Now he's like, I need it by this date. She's like, I can't, I don't know if we have it in stock, but we'll make sure we, if we find it, we'll overnight it to you. Yeah. So then the police check FedEx. They find the tracking number. They know that he purchased the potassium cyanide. It was delivered. They have all the screenshots of all of this that I've talked about with you as part of this affidavit, this 52-page arrest affidavit. Then, here comes the kicker. They also find a series of very intimate, sexually intimate emails with a female dentist that lives in Austin, Texas. Apparently, they had made travel plans for her to go from Austin, Texas to Colorado on March 8th through the 10th. There was a second flight itinerary for March 16th through the 20th. So all those times James is texting his wife, I love you, I'm going to take a nap, it'll be about an hour and a half. He was with his girlfriend. By the way, her name is Karen. I don't know what her last name is, but her name is Karen. So he does tell her that something has happened to Karen. And here is her response. This is the email she sends back to him. She explained how sorry she was for him and that she wished she was helping him, not pulling him away. She stated she knew it had to be so hard when he was going through, and that she wanted to be there for him, but did not want to mix in with his family and friends and pretend to only be a friend when there was something more. Come on. Actually, here's her name, Karen Kane. She's a dentist. My goodness. So then they interview the sister. Yes, Angela's sister. She tells them that Angela and James' marriage had been very tumultuous. James has had multiple affairs with several women over the years, that he had been addicted to pornography since he was a teenager. And Angela's sister is the one that told the cops that 5 or 6 years ago he had tried to poison Angela. She didn't know what the drug was, but she knew that he had tried to poison her. So Angela had told her sister many times over the years that she was going to leave her husband. James had always convinced her to stay. Angela had told her sister that James had run the dental practice into the ground and even had gone to Las Vegas recently and gambled away $2,000. So on March 18th, again, they determined that Angela is brain dead under the Centers for Disease Control definition of brain death, and life support was withdrawn. Now, James Craig refused to give his wife an autopsy. He told the doctors, she had suffered enough in life. He didn't want her to suffer in death, so no autopsy. So, based on this 52-page affidavit, the judge signed the arrest warrant. James Craig was arrested, and then he was officially arraigned on March 30th. That was last Thursday, not quite a week ago. He pled not guilty, so there will be a trial. So the police concluded that, based on the totality of these circumstances, that James had gone to great lengths to poison his wife and did so successfully. Now, here's what my thoughts. I hope that despite the fact that he declined an autopsy, that the police went ahead and did one. So usually when you see a police affidavit, there's information. They don't put everything in the affidavit, although this is pretty thorough. Usually they leave a few things out. So maybe they, he didn't talk about any of the medical stuff in here, so I'm sure they've attained a copy of the medical records from all of the visits of March 6th to the hospital, March 7th to the acute care center, her PCP, the other hospital, all of that, and then they're probably having it reviewed by an expert who's going to give an opinion based on what he sees about whether she was poisoned and whether what she was doing was consistent with poisoning. And so it's going to be a very, very interesting trial. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the content. Please don't forget to show your support for the channel. You can do so by looking down in the description, becoming a member or a Patreon, or just giving me a super thanks. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.